Welcome back to another episode of Movified. I'm your host, Mark Hirschi, owner of Sam's Moving Storage located in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. And today is Movified Mondays. I am stoked. It's like a flip of the script. We got Wade Swikle here, owner of Two College Brothers Moving and Storage, massive franchisor. He's killing the market right now. Co-founder of the Tighten Retreats and Tighten Up Training. It's funny. I almost can like go off the back of your book here because this is what we want to talk about today. This Hometown Tighten book. Welcome, Wade, to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's fun to be a guest on other podcasts from time to time. So thanks for having me.
And for those that don't know Wade, it was his podcast that really gave me the initiative of going, man, I love what he's doing on Grow Your Moving Company podcast. And I would love to try and do the same, have a fun spin at it. But I mean, that's not even like the beginning stages of where Wade's at today, from starting a moving company with like $600 in his pocket and a pickup truck to now growing multi-million-dollar businesses. He is in the boating world. He is in the swiffle. Did I say that? Swiffle ball?
Yeah. Wiffle ball.
Wiffle ball. Sorry, wiffle ball. I don't feel like wiffle ball is really popular up in Canada. So
it's not really popular anywhere. Trying to grow that sport. But I've also been playing some pickleball lately. So
there we go. There we go.
Yeah, I'm finding a little bit of a new passion there with the sports hobbies.
I love it. It's every chance you talk about the moving industry, Wade is part of it. He is like the forefront of it. I bet you it's probably a lot to do with, his bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism, his master's in entrepreneurship, and just a well-rounded guy. I really always appreciate the conversations I get with Wade. And, I did get an update from my VA that also says that you are a male model for boating shows. So I think maybe this was like part of like the fitness journey. I'm pretty sure you probably saw that post of him riding a horse back in the day.
Well, I enjoy getting on the boat. Living in Florida, it's just there's just always an opportunity. So, I'm drawn to the water. What can I say?
Well, I appreciate it. And thank you so much for being on here. I raised up the book too, and I want to make sure that people get a good eye on this. Hometown Tighten, when there is like a mover's Bible to read, like this is the go-to. I mean, I'm not that much of a highlighter, but there's so many sections in here that I just kept highlighting all the time because I totally resonated with this book. It was like as if I was writing this story about, trying to start something and trying to get going and running through the muck of which way to go and the ups and downs. And then what I love too, and I don't want to kind of go super deep, but I love the sections, right? Because it allowed me to kind of go, okay, here's the origin story. This is like the foundation of how you started the business. Then it's, okay, let's dive deep into the marketing side. Let's dive deep into your operations. It's like, again, it's like a play-by-play book that I really enjoy, just like books like Traction or Buy Back Your Time, like those that are out there. But when it's moving centric, like everybody I've talked to that's read this book is like, just their books are peeled, like their pages, they've copied stuff down, everything's highlighted. It's wild. And I think that should be like a huge appreciation to you, Wade, and a thank you for coming out with this book.
Well, thank you for that feedback. I sat on it. It took me probably, 7 or 8 months to write it. It was just a great creative outlet for me. Like, early in the mornings after a workout or whatever, just sitting at a coffee shop, weekends sometimes too. And I really enjoyed the writing process, but then I got scared and I sat on it for like 7 or 8 months because I was like afraid to put it all out there. I tell a lot of stories that aren't always the most glamorous parts of this business. And I was like, what if I'm too scatterbrained? Like most entrepreneurs, especially in this industry, like I feel like I have a touch of ADD. And I was like, am I just talking in circles sometimes? Like, is this going to make any sense? And I finally found an editor, actually a guest on my podcast had written a book, Dan Antonelli. He spoke at our last retreat on branding. And we were talking about, who published your book, and he connected me with his publisher and his editor. And I sent it over and I was like, this is probably, I don't know if this is any good, but let me know what you think. And she liked it a lot. And yeah, next thing you know, we published it in probably about 45 days from the time that I like sent it over. So I was trying really hard to get it out by the last retreat, and basically just blocked my calendar for an entire week as we went through the editing process and cleaned up some grammar stuff and got it a little bit more organized. And it was a really cool experience. Definitely would like to write some more in the future. And it's been a good calling card just, in my local community. I give it to real estate agents and referral partners and employees, team members. And it's, yeah, just not trying to get rich on it. Just wanted to share the journey because I figured some people might resonate with it. And I appreciate those kind words.
Well, for those that don't have the book, just so you know, if this book was written by me, it'd be filled with like 4 pages of writing, then a coloring page, and then a couple of photos, and then a couple 4 more pages, maybe some cartoons. This book is so in depth that what I also appreciate is I really, because I'm such a like ADHD, hard to keep up with the stories and the chapters, is that's my goal, right? Start a chapter, at least finish the chapter. And I think it's part of, like, you wrote it in the book of that's how you started as well too. But it's great because it's about every 20 pages or so, it's a new chapter. So I'm always like, okay, that's my goal, right? I got 15 to 20 pages to get through, and like that's great. And it's just hunkered down through. I've always had the idea of, oh, I really kind of want to write a book, but never. And the fact that you're telling me 7 months, I thought this was like a 4-year journey. Like, I started this book and it kept going. Where was that aha moment? Like in the 13-year journey for 2 college brothers, and like, what was that aha like inspiring you to go, I'm going to sit down and write a book?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had attempted to do it several years ago, and I'd read, I think it was like a Grant Cardone book, like 10X Rule or something, and he talked about how he sat down and just like pumped out an entire book in a weekend, and he's like 10X, like, work harder, like blah blah blah. So I basically tried to start one, but that was like before I really had enough experience, I feel like, to validate my own experience. And um I just had wanted to do it for a long time, and I needed that creative outlet, and I felt inspired one day. I had read another book on writing books on how it can be a great calling card to help grow your business and just establish you as an authority in whatever industry that you might be in. And decided that, what, like, let's get this done. And I just chipped away at it. I thought through, like, okay, what are all the topics that I want to cover? That I feel qualified to cover. And I think that there's still a lot I have to learn. I don't think that I'm as far along as a lot of people in this industry actually are. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that could write an even better book than me. But I was like, I'm the only one that has my own experience. And I tried to start each chapter, especially in the first section, each chapter with like a story of my experience and how it tied into the lesson that I learned through that experience. And I didn't know anything about this industry for the first, like, probably at least 5 years. It wasn't until I started going to Louis Massaro and I started my podcast, and really just started the podcast as a way to reach out to other more successful moving company owners in different markets and ask them questions. I was trying to figure this out. There weren't a lot of resources in 2015, 2016, 2017 for moving company owners. There's obviously a lot of business books in general, but you had like the American Moving and Storage Association, and that was pretty much it until Louis Massaro came on. And that was like, light bulb went off. I finally have like a playbook specific to my industry, and started to meet a lot of really cool moving company owners there. The Grow Your Moving Company, or I'm sorry, the Moving Company Owners Unite Facebook page started to become a thing. Found that just by happenstance, just searching for moving Facebook groups. And turns out Blake, who's right in my own backyard, on one of the people who started it, and of course got connected with Derek Works and a lot of those guys, Tim Krupp, they became some of the first guests on the podcast. And I really do owe a lot of what I know today to some of those guys that have figured it out. And it was really a tool to basically seek out mentorship. And I had a lot of those closed door conversations with some of these guys. I was like, man, like, somebody else needs to hear this. Like, there's got to be other people that have the same questions that I do. And There weren't any moving company podcasts at the time, so started that and continued to do that for several years very consistently. And I used it as a lesson to just reach out to people I wanted to talk to and ask them questions and learn. And I owe a lot of the stuff that I've been able to do today to those people who are willing to kind of teach me and guide me along the way and be mentors. And I think that's, for anybody that might be listening, whether they're in moving or any other industry, like seek out mentorship, find people that are doing what you want to do, and they could be in your market, or if they're willing to talk to you, or in a totally different market. But that's really, that's where the gold is. And you could hire coaches and consultants, and they have a lot of good stuff to say a lot of the time, but the people who actually did what you want to do in the industry have the real answers and the nuances that I think most people are looking for. And I owe them a lot of credit for a lot of the lessons in that book and how they relate to my own personal experience.
Being found on the second page of Google is literally like having a billboard in the middle of the desert. Your mama ain't gonna see it. No one's gonna see it. You're on the second page of Google. No one's gonna call. No one's gonna book. Here is the deal. If your business is not ranking on the top of Google, that means your competitors are going to be stealing your customers every single day. So at Rotate Digital, we don't play any guessing games. We use data-driven SEO strategies to make sure Google finds you first so that these Google searches turn into your customers, not your competitors' customers. How do we do it? We do it through AI-driven keyword optimization, exclusive blog networks, backlinking strategies, and honestly, the secret stuff, the proprietary lead attribution software. So what do you get as a result? You get not only good marketing, but now you get clarity into what is bringing you more revenue. So if that's something you want to do, you want to make sure your leads find you and not your competition, go ahead and go to rotatedigital.com, schedule a call, and we'll help you take your business to the top of Google.
Moving companies, referrals are the best leads, right? But communicating with customers, tracking progress, managing payouts, it's just overwhelming. That's why at Snowball, we do it all for you. And we're really good at it. In fact, in just a few months, the Snowball platform helped JK Moving generate over $200K in new revenue. We even helped New City Moving book 30 moves in a single month. If you have happy customers, we can get you referrals. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get the first 2 months on us.
Well, I totally agree with you. I missed the mark when I started seeing Lewis's posts and ads for, come see me, in Scottsdale. And I was like, who is this guy? Right? Like this just, I did not resonate with me at all until I think it was like 2022. So I missed that whole beginning essence where you guys have become, there's a group of you that were part of the core, right? That started, and you named off a bunch of them that all were part of his sales training. And they're, and you're right, up to Lewis, there was like nothing out there. There was all these different mastermind kind of groups or, coaching groups, but they were different trades. Like you had the plumbers, the painters, you had all this kind of stuff. And then you as the mover would come in and be like, okay, cool. I'm super excited. I want to learn. Is there any other movers in this group? And they're like, no, sorry, you're like the only one, but maybe we can find someone that's across the globe, for you to work with. And you're like, this doesn't work really well. But it did introduce me to Cameron Beatty. So shout out to Cameron from Best of Utah, because I met him and he says, buddy, you gotta listen to Wade Swikle's podcast, and you need to come to a Louis Massaro event. I will just give you the virtual one, because I think it was COVID at the time. And he said, just watch it and then come out and check it out, because this is like a game changer. And you're right. Like, get your group together. What do you think was one of the toughest lessons that you had to learn while making the book, especially when you're thinking of, like, in your book, you talk about the hometown dominator, right? Like local market, dominating that market. What was a tough lesson that you had to learn yourself? Probably in this book as well too, but that you could share with people that maybe haven't read the book yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think don't try to grow too fast. Like that's definitely something I've been guilty of. I opened my Tampa office back in 2015, when I was still kind of figuring out how to get my Gainesville office on the map. And I'd found some marketing sources in a small town like Gainesville that worked. It's a college town in North Central Florida, fairly small town. I mean, it's 120,000 people probably, plus, the student population that's really seasonal. And we started off helping a lot of college kids move and hiring a lot of college kids. And I had this like kind of system that worked pretty well in a college town. And I was like, well, time to go expand, time to go, to a big city and see what, how big I can grow down there. And it took me probably about 3.5 to 4 years to break through the noise in a big city. And it was tough. And it really, I was running really thin. I mean, it was pulling me in all kinds of different directions. I think I blew up like 2 engines on 2 different cars because I was driving back and forth all the time. I every other day I was making a 2-hour drive to one location, trying to hold it all together. I remember one time through a series of events between people quitting or getting fired, I was literally the only employee in my business running 2 locations, management employee, I should say. I had movers. But I was trying to basically run 2 locations, dispatch 2 locations, do sales for 2 locations. And I actually went out to a Louis Massaro conference. This was probably like March of 2018. And I was literally running 2 businesses, 2 locations from Arizona. And there was just nightmare after nightmare. I think like something went missing on a job site, and I think a weapon went missing on a job site, and I was
Even
with
worse.
Eric
Oh my
and
God.
Tim, and this is all like playing out in real time. I'm 2,000 miles away. And I had somebody getting ready to start, to help me out a few weeks after that. But at the time, there was this period of probably 3 weeks where it was just me, and it fell in the same time as a Lewis event. And so I was like, I'm just going to go and we'll figure it out and hope that everything goes well. And so, I think if I had to do it over again, I would focus on one market, a decent size city, maybe not a big city, like probably like a medium sized city, like, I don't know, 2, 3, 400,000 people. Because a lot of the moving companies that I see doing very well are those hometown dominators in a city that's small enough to have a lot of word of mouth and, get involved in a lot of different networking groups and kind of cover every corner, but not big enough to where there's a million competitors lowballing prices and charging $60 an hour for 2 guys on Craigslist. That's, definitely, being more selective on markets, not trying to open up a bunch of new locations and chase a bunch of shiny objects, and just really focusing on perfecting one market. And that's part of the reason I like franchising so much, is because rather than go and open a bunch of corporate locations and have employees running something that's, several hours or even in different time zones away, you have an owner there running that office, and owners tend to look for more opportunities in their market, and they tend to just be more invested in the business and the people that are coming into the business, and they're not letting things slip that a salaried manager might not take ownership of. And that so I'd like that franchising model because of that. You have that ownership presence, but you also have kind of the economies of scale by being able to leverage the same website, the same vendors, the same purchasing power, the market, branding. But you have that ownership presence that allows you to seek out opportunities, make sure you're getting the right people hired. And so, that's kind of what I see now that I didn't see back then when I tried to just open up locations corporately, I guess you could say. And I think, doing it over again, that was a tough time, back in like probably from like 2014 to 2018, 2019. It was a struggle because I was trying to grow too fast and hold too many things together, and instead of just focusing on nailing the fundamentals. And until you can master the fundamentals and basically put the whole thing on autopilot, I wouldn't recommend doing what I did. Do as I say, not as I did. But a lot of lessons came of it, and fortunately, it's worked out so far. But again, I still think I'm still very early in this journey. I see a lot of room to grow, and all the markets that we're in, and a lot more to get done. So it's only a chapter in the overall process, I think.
Well, I remember talking to Brian Slater about a year ago, and suggesting to him, going, man, there's a couple businesses for sale. I'm looking at acquiring some more acquisitions. One's in this area, one's in that area. And he turned around and he was like, why? He's like, have you maximized everything in your one market? Why are you picking up all the dimes there? I always like love the quote, because he was like, why are you picking up all the dimes everywhere when you have quarters lying in front of you that you could be picking up and really profiting from? And it totally made me stop and rethink of exactly what you're saying. It's like, focus on the one location, make sure this is like solid, and then you can start spreading it out. And I like your idea. Was that one of the essence of why you opened up San Antonio, or you sold the franchise out in that area? 'Cause it's more of a smaller town.
Yeah, our San Antonio franchise found me actually through the podcast, and he had reached out and was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a moving company. I tried to start one a while back, didn't really go super well. I was just, working on all the jobs myself, and I ended up taking a job, a decent job as a salesperson for an HVAC company, and he did that for like 6 years. And he's like, man, I miss that freedom I had when I had my own business. I've got 2 young kids, and I want to be able to go to their, sports games, and I want to be able to, have more control over my destiny. And I think, listening to the podcast, like, I see that it's possible now. And I was like, well, have you ever thought about a franchise? We just started franchising. And he's like, oh man, not really, but I'm open to it. And we had several conversations over the course of about 6 months, and realized that, we could help him get to where he wanted to be a lot faster by some of those things I mentioned, by leveraging a lot of the vendors and the purchasing power and the website and the SEO that we had built up with our website over the course of several years, and the systems and the processes and everything, all the trials and tribulations, so that, what took me 7 years to accomplish, he could accomplish much, much quicker. And so, that's how we found him. Similar story with our Gainesville franchise. And I kind of started to realize I was going to all the trade shows, trying to market the franchise, and, trying to grow, because I see some other players in our industry that have franchised very, very rapidly. And I started to realize after 2 franchises, like, you know what, like, maybe trying to open up all the locations and sell a bunch of franchise isn't the play here. Maybe it's, you wait till you find the right person in the right market, and you let them kind of come to you, be the flame, not the moth. And those will be the people that share your values and your mission, probably more than some random person you had a 10-minute conversation with at a trade show. And, I'm not aggressively pursuing opening more franchises. Like, we've got the model set up. If somebody is the right person in the right market that wants to come and try to do it. But like you said, like, why chase dimes everywhere when there's quarters right in front of you? Until we know every single realtor and every single restoration company, and we're getting commercial work lined up, and, we're every location's extremely profitable, and we're running, as many trucks as we can in each location with different types of work, and we're all hometown dominators. Like, why go try to start more things up from scratch unless the right opportunity and the right person comes your way? And in which case, I do believe in that ownership model of saying, hey, you're the owner of this. You own 100% of this business, and you can lean on the model that we built and go into business for yourself and not by yourself. And I'm open to it. I'm always open to opportunities when they present themselves and the timing's right. But I think when you go and try to aggressively chase all these, shiny objects and open new things and spread yourself too thin is where a lot of people get into trouble, and a lot of times it backfires. So
All the cracks start opening up, right? Like, you're just like, yeah,
And I
for
mean, even
sure.
in our Tampa office, I mean, I don't know all 16,000 realtors here. They don't know, and all 16,000 people don't know who I am. We don't have all the commercial work. We're not, we're becoming a household name. I talk to a lot of people that I meet for the first time, and they've heard of our company, but until every single person in my market knows who we are, and we're one of the first people they think of when it comes time to move, there's a lot of work to be done.
Are you a mover looking to make an impact? Discover Moving Letters AI and join the ML Plus Club today. Elevate your customer engagement with the personal touch of handwritten letters.
If you want to take your company to that next level, it's the only way to subscribe. If you're doing anything but Moving Letters AI, you need to get on it. So it's going to take your business to that next level. You're going to see an increase in that revenue. Let's go.
I highly recommend using this company. They're amazing to work with. They even send you an email on how much work they're producing for you.
Don't miss out. Join the revolution and start making moves that matter.
Put a golden damn ticket in there with Moving Letters AI.
Hi, I'm Mark Hirschi with Salmon's Moving and Storage. Today, I want to talk about Tighten Up training. Why? Because this is Netflix grade quality training. It's not those old videos and VHSs that you got hiding in your office somewhere. It's online, it's easy to use, they're short videos, but they get to the point. My new employees, these guys run through these training programs, there's tests at the end, and they're coming out going, oh, I'm ready to rock. So if you haven't checked out Tighten Up training yet, get a demo done, get on board. Guess what else is there? Online portals for my sales staff. Can you believe it? These guys can learn how to overcome objections and book more leads today. So what are you waiting for? Go check out Tighten Up training today.
I like that, and thanks, Wade. When I think of all the different locations to try and go, and I know some of the guys that you're talking about that have just blown up on franchises, and to me it would be so extremely overwhelming. What was one of the big lessons that you learned from having that franchise in San Antonio and then in Gainesville, where you're like, oh, like I'm noticing these are the cracks that have to get fixed, and what do we have to focus on to make sure that these guys are being like they're getting the best bang for their buck for being part of the Two College Brothers franchise?
Yeah, well, so that both were very different situations. Just like when I went from Gainesville and opened up a location in Tampa, I realized that a lot of the same marketing and a lot of the same, strategies for recruiting and things like that didn't work in Tampa like they worked in Gainesville. When I sold the Gainesville franchise, it was already an existing location and had been for well over 10 years at that point. And so it was already an established multi-million-dollar business. Whereas San Antonio was starting completely from scratch in a brand new market, brand new state, new time zone even. And people didn't know who we were down there. In Tampa, I had a lot of connections when I went down there and opened up. I had friends I went to college with that moved down there. They had friends, and, we had trucks running back and forth all the time. So there was a little bit of brand recognition. I was easily able to get back and forth to and from. But when we opened up in San Antonio, it was a brand new startup location that nobody knew anything about. And so that was definitely a challenge, rebuilding a reputation, discovering what marketing works. It took a while before even the postcards started working. It took a while before we started ranking for anything on Google with our SEO. And so that was eye-opening. It was very much a challenge. And it's all starting to come together. And then, against my advice that I just said, we opened a location in Naples, Florida earlier this year, but it was because I had a rock star team member that had been with me for several years that wanted to do it. And I saw the opportunity in that market being a very affluent market, not a lot of competition. And so we kind of did the same thing back in September of 2024. So still a very young location down there. But I think it's good for me because it helps me kind of rewind time, 10, 15 years ago and see what it's like and what challenges a startup company has versus an established company where, you may not necessarily have a reputation built up. You may not have the recurring customers that are moving for the second or third time with you who have told a bunch of people about you and all that word of mouth. So it's like rediscovering the marketing and trying different things and trying different marketing sources. Like we weren't doing any LSA until we started doing it in San Antonio just to see if it would work. Postcards were a huge driver of business for us in Florida. They were a lot slower to get some traction in San Antonio. And so we started to find these little things. We started to tailor a lot of the strategies that we had. One thing that we had done in San Antonio is we got a San Antonio address because we thought that would be better for SEO to have an address in the city of, the big part of the city. But the address that we got, it was in a part of town that was kind of more industrial, low income, not a great part of town. So we recently, within the last probably 2 months since the beginning of this year, he moved his address from a San Antonio address to the suburb where he was raised in and knew everybody. and could basically be a hometown dominator just outside of San Antonio. And all of a sudden we started ranking, in the top of the map pack by moving there, and it's surrounded by much more affluence, by, a lot more residential areas. And all of a sudden the phone starts ringing a whole lot more. And it was a lot easier to rank in that suburb because there wasn't really any competition in that specific suburb. And so if you know anything about the map packs and how SEO works, and I just did a podcast with my SEO team, and actually he brought on somebody who's working with him, Brian Bloom, who I work with for that. He brought on the former head of Google Maps, and we had a really good conversation. I don't know if that's gone out yet, but definitely worth a listen to once it does, if it hasn't already. We talked a lot about, Google's always changing, and sometimes, you can rely on things outside of that, when you're in a market that you've been in for a long time, or you've built that trust and authority, and you've built a bunch of articles and blogs and city pages. But in a brand new space, you're basically starting over from scratch for that space. And we found that by actually moving outside of the big city address and moving to a suburban address, similar to like what Eric Works has done in Marietta, Georgia versus Atlanta. I think now he's starting to do stuff for Atlanta, or maybe he has been, but we found that actually is working a lot better than what we thought would work, and what was counterintuitive. So sometimes you just have to try different things, and every market's going to be a little bit different. We do well with radio here in Tampa. I've never done well with radio anywhere else I've tried it. So, sometimes things will work some places that won't.
Exactly. And radio is such a weird, it's a hard ROI to track. I remember telling somebody, they're like, Mark, you should really just get back into doing radio ads. And I'm like, why? So my parents can say, hey, I heard you on the radio. And your friends can be like, I heard you on the radio. Great. But like, are you moving? Can you like send me those referrals, please? It is consistency. The radio ads are really positive and they work. And I think if you can choose the right station is also key too, right? Getting that right demographic and everything else. But I think you hit the nail on the head when we talk about how we market our businesses and the areas that they are. And to me, you could have been a business owner that said, well, look, guys, like, I don't know, maybe San Antonio is just not, maybe we just got to raise and spend way more money and do it all, instead of just looking at it going, okay, well, how can we fix this? Let's work with our team. Where can we target? Maybe if we, if that address does switch and we're in a different area, we're going to, strike it right out of the water, and we're going to blow this and become the hometown dominator. I know I was talking with an SEO team that said, okay, Mark, well, you're just outside Vancouver, your office, but if we can get another location here and another location here and give you a triangular effect, now your circling reach is like all around Vancouver, and you're just going to be found a lot more than, oh, let's just get you an address in like downtown Vancouver, even though that's a very highly populated area. So, and that's what we've done. And we've noticed a massive increase because we are targeting just outside some of those major metropolitan areas. So that's great. Let's flip it and talk a little bit about the Titan retreats, because up to, 2020, I'd say probably at least up to 2023, everybody was really strong on going to the Louis Massaro events. I know that you, and along with a couple guys, said, hey, we're going to start something up in Tampa. It's easier. It's my hometown. Let's get together. Let's do our own little mastermind retreat group. And then like a flick of the switch. That's what I'm saying. There was probably a lot of background noise of getting together and figuring it out. But it was like, hey guys, like we're gonna have like the biggest mover event possible. Like we are gonna hype the hell out of this thing. You guys went all out with renting, this crazy house, throwing a big party out in Scottsdale, and then launching this Titan retreat event that was, the first speaker was Andy Elliott. Like we guys came in explosive. I feel like I never worked out so much in my life and learned so much in my life in like those couple days, and met such an amazing group of people. Like what made you guys want to pull that trigger? Because we've talked off camera and you're always like, Mark, like you're not making it in my office. Like this is about like really just building your name and your brand and everything else, and really having an established conference for business professionals. But there's so much work to go into it. So what made you guys want to get this thing together? Was there a group of you and then you like kicked out a couple, or you had a couple and said, hey, if you're in, like, we're going to make this happen? Like, can you, because there's people out there that are listening that go, I would love to do a conference or a small mastermind group or some type of event that Wade and Chad and everybody in the group and Faith, like, to find a Faith is like a diamond in the rough, right? Like, she is such a workhorse, just nonstop. So can you give me a little guidance of how that kind of started from the small to, hey, we're going to go big, and now just being like the conference of the year that everybody wants to attend?
Yeah. So it all really started probably back in December of 2019. There was a group of us that had gotten to know each other through the podcast, people that I had on as guests, people that I met at the Louis Massaro stuff, people that I had talked to through the Moving Company Owners Unite Facebook group. And there's actually a guy named Paul LaFontaine who had a moving company in right outside of Breckenridge in Colorado. And he had an Airbnb property in Denver, and he had invited several of us out there. I think it was 8 or 10 of us that all went out there. Eric was one of them. I think Tim came out, a few other guys. And we basically, he had us all over at his house, and we prepared like 2-hour presentations on our business. And we would stand up in front of the group and talk about the pros, cons, basically did a whole SWOT analysis of, these are what is going well, these aren't. Here we did full financials. We were very, transparent with one another to ultimately help each other with our businesses. And it was a very constructive weekend. It was right before COVID. So it was like December 2019. So a few months right before COVID took over. And we set a lot of goals during that meeting. And I've ultimately realized all of the goals that I had set there. And one of the things was everybody was like, hey, you should focus on Tampa, focus on this bigger market. And so I went back, at least a 11,000 square foot warehouse in Tampa, started doing storage, and moved to Tampa within the next 6 months, in the middle of the beginnings of COVID. And it was just such a powerful mastermind event because it really was a pivotal point in my moving industry career. But it was a lot of work. We had long days presenting on our businesses, and we'd go out to dinner and then call it a night after that. And so it was really powerful. And because COVID started, none of the other big conferences were happening. Lewis stopped doing his stuff. AMSA was converting to ATA. They stopped doing events. There weren't any other live person events. And about a year later, another group in Scottsdale got together and wanted to kind of replicate what we had gone through over there in Denver with this mastermind group. They rented a big house, had a bunch of people over. And that's when I brought Chad. I was like, hey man, like, come out to this event. The last one that I went out to, like this little mastermind Airbnb weekend, was really powerful. It's like, man, I don't know if I could hang out with all those big dogs. Cause like, he was a lot smaller than he is now, and convinced them to fly out there with me in the middle of COVID. We ended up having like a round table with this group of probably 16, 18 movers, a lot of them that I call close friends today. And that was about where the business part of that stopped. And it turned into like a 3-day bachelor party. And we stopped doing all the structured stuff that we had done at the first one. And we just had like a 3-day long pool party. And so Chad and I came back fired up. We talked moving the whole time, so it was still valuable. But Chad, like, man, we should do one of these, and we should make it both fun and educational, and like basically blend the best of both worlds, because both events were equally powerful. One was very kind of buttoned up, and one was kind of just, a lot looser and social and casual. And so we rented a big Airbnb in Florida. We invited all the same people back, and had a great time, mixed the business and pleasure. We jammed that thing up with entertainment from wall to wall. Like, there was always somebody talking. We had a casino night. We rented sweet cars and drove all around and went out and partied, but also had like structured conversations during the daytime. And so we did those Airbnb masterminds that were part party, part business, a little business and pleasure, several times. I think we had probably 4 or 5 of them before we're like, okay, now we're starting to get a lot of interest in this, and we only have so much room inside of an Airbnb. We're connecting with some pretty big name speakers like Andy Elliott and Tommy Mello and whoever. Let's, like, the only way we could justify bringing in somebody that of that caliber that, of course, charges a lot of money, was to put on a full scale conference. And so we did the first one at a hotel conference room. I think we had about 50 people, which was 3 times bigger than the Airbnb things that we had been doing. And then the next spring, we ended up bringing in Andy, and I think we had about 250 people show up for that. And then we brought in Tommy and all those other speakers for this most recent one. And we had I think over 300 people at that. And now it's just like become a whole venture in and of itself beyond just the mastermind that it started out as. And it's a great way to get access to people at the top of their game, business celebrities, if you will. But it also brings everybody together for those mastermind type settings where, you guys can go golfing and host a little golf tournament if you want to on the side after the event ends, or we have, yacht cruises. And like, we still try to, there's always going to be those social groups that click up and can mastermind amongst themselves. But it's like the main event that draws everybody in. That's where the speakers come into play. Now we're starting to bring out a lot of vendors, and we're starting to get, brand new vendors that are surfacing and seeking it out. And it opens up a lot of doors to connect with them and to work with them and to try out new softwares and new products. And then if we like them, then we invite them back and we use them for our own businesses and endorse them. And it's really, it kind of almost happened by accident. I mean, it was just an Airbnb where we wanted to throw a big party, but also we were getting so much valuable knowledge out of it. And it's just kind of blossomed into this really cool thing where we're bringing the whole community together, and we're accessing people that we otherwise wouldn't have any means to access, to learn from, and just open up doors and open up opportunities and help lift up a lot of other businesses along the way. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I think it's absolutely, it's so much fun. It's definitely now become the highlight of my year. I remember because I sit on the board of the Canadian Association of Movers. For those Americans wondering what the hell that is, that's like the ATA or the AMSA, but for Canada. And then also for the Atlas Van Lines that I'm a part of as well too. And I kind of went back to both parties and was like, guys, like, I've already complained about you guys doing it wrong. You're really doing it wrong. Like, we're going to change this up. And even the last event for Cam, I came back in the summer and was like, okay, like, look, what's your layout? Like, who's speaking? What's happening? I was like, let's cross this person off. Let's bring this person in. Like, we need to fix this thing up and bring some type of energy, because you guys are all going to make people fall asleep compared to going to a moving titan retreat. So for all those that are listening, be prepared, because they're dropping the dates soon, and you better get your ticket because it's going to be explosive. It's going to double in numbers. Their location this year is going to change and be even bigger and better. It is going to be an all-star speaker cast, but that's in the fall. But let's hone in, because one of the biggest things as we finish this up, and I mean, we could sit here and talk even longer about tightening up training and all the amazing things that you guys are doing on the training side. I know we've had you and Chad on before to talk about the training options. If you are, I'll keep it short. If you do not have a proper moving training program, go do a demo. Go check this out. This is not about just training movers. This is also about helping out with your sales team. This is about helping out with your marketing. This is about educating, like, it's your own coaching corner, but also something you can keep track of. Like, that's our biggest goal with our guys, is I can keep track of the on-site learning, and then, hey, watch these videos, do these tests. You passed it, great. You've moved on to step 2. So it's an amazing program that they put together. Tons of money they've invested into this to constantly upgrade it, make it up to date. They're always adding videos onto it. Wade, do you want me to keep spieling it on more? Like, you're like, Mark, just keep talking. Go, go, go. This is great. But that's tighten up training. So go do a demo. Like, I'm sure, if you guys reach out and say you heard us on Movified, they'll even throw in a free month. I'll just throw that out there. Wade can send me the bill, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out. And but the big thing too is, we talked earlier about different marketing strategies. I know that from having the different speakers on your podcast, you went out there with like a wagon and a bunch of boxes and just started going door knocking, right? Like, hit that market up and go test out all these different market strategies. One of the big things that we learned back in, what was it? Was it 2023? I feel it was just 2024, was that grassroots marketing, like going back into it. But you found that what worked with the Titan retreats is now this opportunity for you to put on something in your hometown, to actually follow the title of your book, being a hometown Titan. this April, you are actually putting on an event, not just a moving event, but can you share a little bit about this and let people know saying, what it's all about and why it could also benefit you as a moving company owner or any owner, but really on that side of why you want to attend. I would love to. I've already told you. It's just I can't figure out how to get all the way down there and come back again and back forth, but go ahead.
Hi everyone, it's your favorite mover, Austin Yarbrough, and welcome to my school. The school is named Moving Army because it's inspired by Andy Elliott's team, and we've got some amazing changes coming for the moving industry, and I can't wait to work with you. In this school, we will be doing a 100-day fitness challenge.
Wow.
So what this means is we are going to be working out for 45 minutes minimum physical activity for 100 straight days. Stay tuned for more information and let's get moving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm always trying different things, trying to see what sticks and what works and going on the theme of the book, the Hometown Titan Retreat that we're doing in April. It's really an event geared towards our referral partners in the community. So it's going to be, we're trying to fill half people in real estate, half other home services. We've got a bunch of the top producing real estate agents in our market speaking at it, but we've also got Tommy Mello coming back and several other high profile home service providers. Lance Bachman, if you know who he is, he's kind of like an up and coming Tommy Mello.
Sure have. Yeah, he's been on the podcast. Yeah, he's a wildcat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Lance is awesome.
I haven't met him yet. I need to do a podcast with him, but Reagan connected us, and Reagan was another guy that came out of the moving Titan retreats. But I mean, we're kind of going into uncharted territory, raising the bar and trying out this new model where we're hosting a locally focused event and bringing in the pillars of the community to speak, but also to get involved, very similar to the format that we've done with the moving Titan retreats, but ultimately putting our moving companies at the very center of our referral sphere and creating a massive event for all of the people in our local backyard, our local community. I mean, movers are welcome to attend. If it goes well, we'll have the blueprint for it and you can put on your own Hometown Titan retreat in your market. If it doesn't go well, then maybe we'll stick to the moving Titan retreats, but we've got a really cool speaking lineup for it. We've got a big theater. The nice thing about the local event is we're really able to leverage things that we're not able to leverage on like a national or even an international scale, like local PR. We worked out trade deals with media sponsors to have them be presenting sponsors to get free radio commercials, free. I've got a call tomorrow for hopefully a TV media sponsor. I've teamed up with a PR agency to basically get us as much local exposure on the local news outlets, the local print outlets, the local radio station, and the morning shows and podcasts and blogs and all these different things that it's tough to do that on a national or an international scale. But when it's right in your own backyard, it's like a newsworthy thing. And you have all these high powered local influencers and top producing entrepreneurs and real estate agents and brokers all coming together, and they have their own audiences, and their audiences are our audience from a moving standpoint. So it's really designed to be kind of like a funnel for our moving companies by putting us at the center of our hometown and basically lifting up the entire community and our moving companies along the way. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes up. We're about almost less than a month out. I think we're a little over a month away, and tickets are starting to come in. We've connected with some great vendors to help promote it, and I'm super excited about that one because it'll hopefully put our kind of continue to build into our market with the moving company and make it a household name and connect with a lot of people in our community, and by giving them exposure and helping create value and grow their businesses. So that's what it's all about.
I feel like anybody that's been to a BNI, they always try and teach you about having a power team. And going through your sales funnel of your power team. I feel like this event is like the biggest power team style event that you could ever do. And especially to funnel it that you're getting this massive referral source and name out there. I definitely commend you because I think it's going to be huge if you are in the Tampa area or in the Florida area and you want to come check it out. What are the dates?
It's a one-day event. It's April 10th.
April 10th. So lock that day down, go get your tickets. It's going to be explosive and it's going to be such a huge success that hopefully after, we're going to get this blueprint from Wade and understand how we can do this in our own cities, because everybody should be doing this. I think it's fantastic, you know, especially on your scale of doing it. Yeah, I commend you. I think it's a lot of work. I mean, like I said, we need to have a part 2, because I want to talk about block timing and the fact of how are you managing all of this while still smiling and still trying to manage your businesses all throughout. So it sounds like a very sleepless schedule.
Yeah, but you know, it's fulfilling at the end of the day. I have to stay stimulated. My brain, you know, like a lot of entrepreneurs with ADD, like you always got to be going in one way, shape, or form, or else you get into trouble. And I like staying busy. Definitely am staying busy, but yeah, managing time and having a great team around you definitely helps.
Well, everybody, Wade Swikle, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time out. I know you had a crazy day already today, so it's a pleasure to have you on the Movified podcast. I can't wait to see you in the fall at the Titan Retreat again. And thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Mark. I love coming on and supporting the moving community any way that I can. So proud to call you a friend, and I'm glad this podcast is taking off like it is. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Wade. Really appreciate it. And for all those listeners, make sure if you have any questions for Wade or any follow-ups or want to know where you can get those tickets, we'll try and make sure that link is in the description for you. And then find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere, and YouTube. And until next time, stay Movified.